Hopefully Arrington will come back. So let's start our meeting with a little bit of reflection. Okay. So you should have a copy of the agenda, and I need to point out that item was listed as item number 4, Roman numeral 4, installation of a new tree board member. I didn't get that taken out of the previous month's agenda, so that is not something we're doing today. Listing of possible reports. I haven't talked with Savannah about her intentions about attending, or at least some of our meetings. I'll put that on my own personal list of things to do. But I'll just go down the list as it's printed there, and those who have something to say will be able to do so. And are there any additions to particularly the old business? I don't think we have new business today, but okay. So without objection, we'll use this agenda.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Then minutes. I got minutes out late. Hopefully, if you didn't, I sent them to everybody by email, but there's copies here if you don't have one. There she is. No problem. Welcome. So we're at the point of considering the agenda adopted. If you have any changes you'd like to make, that would be okay. Any additions? So minutes.
I've got just one thing in the bottom of page 1 of the minutes. It says chair attended commission meeting in which the TH, we need to finish that with in which the Montreat Future Comprehensive Plan was discussed.
Right. Any other corrections?
On page 2, first, second, third, fourth, fifth line from the bottom, plan can be downloaded, but after the W needs to be deleted, so it's just after adopted. But after adopted, tree board members will be provided with copies.
I'm counting lines. I haven't seen
From the top. Fifth
Oh,
line
from the top down.
Sorry. No, second page, Brett.
Oh. No, I do have it on the second page. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Other corrections? My secretary will join the actors as an on strike. So. Okay, so with those corrections, we'll go with these minutes. All right. Okay. So, public comment.
No That was last month.
That was the last month. I'm sorry, I covered that before you came in. That was left over from last month. Tyler was sworn in. He's duly installed. So that brings us to public comments. Since we don't have anybody who's not a board member, I guess there's no public to comment. Reports. So, shared activities during the month. A good bit of effort has gone into trying to work to initiate the Tree City application. And they always say that you can't do anything with it until at the 1st of September. So I was there, Johnny, on the spot for September 1st, and it wasn't working. And short thing is that it's still not working. And part of the issue is that they just never quite keep their commitment to the 1st of the month. And the other part is that they've changed their website, and I'm not the only one having trouble, but after 3 weeks of effort, I still haven't gotten signed in. So hopefully within the next couple of days, that will be corrected. I will be, though, in the market for a board member to join me, at least in learning about the process here. So because eventually I'm going to be off the board and somebody else will be needing to do that. Montreat Future. I was a little confused about exactly the status of it. I attended the meeting in which when the Board of Commissioners discussed it. Somehow I missed the moment in which it was adopted.
It was approved and adopted.
Yeah. So it is now, and I talked to Angie yesterday, and it is available online. I guess it's not with any changes.
There were 2 minor changes that the commission had proposed and adopted. Those should be now part of what's online, but I haven't checked it. There were 2 very minor changes.
So Montreat Futures is available, the comprehensive plan to view. My intent is to pull together copies for the board, probably for next time. But if you want to go ahead and look online and get your own copy, you can do that. It's a guide. And one question I have for y'all is, I think it could be productive for us to go through that plan together at some point and pick out the things that tree board should be really paying attention to. There's quite a good bit that isn't really our bailiwick, but it might still be productive to get an idea of how the plan works. Any thoughts about that? Okay, I'll put that on a future thing. The tree management guide is another document that we have, and we've had a significant part of the creation of the tree management guide. As I was saying last month, the tree planting plan is a piece of that has not been completed. The board had gotten to the point of starting to work on tree planting plan, but just as COVID hit us, and so it kind of went into limbo along with a lot of other things. But I'm feeling like it's time that we start paying attention to that again. So in a step in those directions, again, the tree management guide is available online. I'm trying to get, there used to be bound copies that were really nice, and I was hoping to get those into your hands, but it's not something that the town really is prepared to fund. So
it's right on the website. So
yeah.
I mean, it's just, and it's also as I say, it's an excellent reference tool, but it is on the website, easy to get to. You just go to town documents and then you go to Public Works and it's there. And it's,
So if anybody is having trouble finding it or whatever, you can contact me and I can assist with that. As people were coming in, there was a little bit of conversation about Ivy, and I've put down as Ivy League question mark on here. Since you were in the conversation, where do things stand with the inventory and the Ivy?
With the tree inventory?
Yeah, well, let's come back to that, but I was, the Ivy League. Is there, we've done the volunteer thing of Ivy League. Is that a way to go for the future? Should we be trying to get community people involved with that, or what's your thought there?
The Ivy League started out pretty strong. And I think through, just trying to get dates together for people all on one single morning to work, it kind of was petering out a little bit. I think it's a good idea for the town. At one point, which we still have a copy somewhere in a file, Barry and I rode around with a town map, tried to map out the most accessible places for people to go, and try to find places that people could get to easily, which obviously I think we talked about it at one point, either in the last meeting or the one before that Virginia Road was we could start right back there because some of that stuff has come back and or just we didn't get to. But that's kind of the main problem in my eyes, is getting terrain that's accessible for people to get into, that somebody's not going to trip and fall, and getting volunteers together on one single day. It has been tough. Like I said, I think we had about 10 people when we first started, and then as it kind of went on through the months, we get down to 2 or 3 people. And again, that's kind of one of those things where I can be involved for just obviously I think we try to do like a 2-hour, hour and a half time frame. And then at that point, if we got other things going on, I could break off from that and just leave tools and we provided bags for the Ivy, and then we would go back. And
so my concern has been not wasting, Public Works time
right
on that. I've also got invasive species on the list down here, so maybe we can come back to that in a few minutes in
Sure.
a little bit broader context. Thank you. Okay. So we'll also come to tree inventory in a little bit as well. So that brings us down to Public Works. Barry?
The only thing that I have for this month is that Public Works has started in on the tree removal for the season. We started Wednesday of last week. We've received 2 of our capital improvement program pieces of equipment that was approved by council. One was a ditch witch with a log grapple on the front, and the other was a larger, safer chipper to replace the chipper we had. And we've used both pieces of equipment, and it makes our job so much more efficient and so much safer. So just they're over at the Public Works facility. If y'all want to come by and look at them and check them out, just feel free.
What kind of witch did you call it?
It's a ditch witch. It's a brand of equipment, and it's got a log grapple on the front for handling equipment or feeding the chipper. It really makes our time more efficient and fast. It makes us faster and safer when we're doing these trees.
I enjoyed watching y'all the other day up in the tree on Virginia Road. I just sat up on the porch and watched the ditch witch work and watch y'all in the trees, and
That was the first tree we used that equipment on, and it just made
Yeah.
everything so much safer and so much faster. So y'all should come over and check it out whenever you want to, and
I wish
just
you'd
let me
get, wish you'd get the one out of my yard. I kept saying,
know. But that's all I have for this moment.
Okay. Thank you. Mason provided us with a report of his and Tyler's activities, and I was really thankful to have the report, and wanted to give y'all an opportunity to speak about that as well. So it's up to you then how you want to break it
We can
down.
do it here, or we can do it down in tree inventory under old business. It doesn't make any difference. However you want to handle it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, do you have any other things as Commissioner Uni?
The only other thing is that for those of you on the board that don't know, one of my duties is to go around with Barry approving trees to cut down. And we were out this morning and looked at a number of trees that will be removed. In addition to the tree inventory, which we'll talk about later, Barry gets about a dozen calls a month from residents who want to talk about trees that they're not sure they're in the right of way or not. They're not sure they need to be removed or not, but he goes out and consults with residents and does that in addition to the calls he gets from residents. The staff itself, and Barry pointed out one tree today where they were out looking at potholes on a road and discovered a tree that needs to be removed. And so in addition to the tree removal that follows the tree inventories, there's other trees that the staff removes each year on a regular basis all over town, not necessarily within a tree inventory area, that they learn from other means, whether it's their own inspection or from residents that need to be removed from right-of-way or green space. And for those of you that don't know that, and a prime example is the tree that was removed in front of Arrington's house just recently, just last week. So for those of you, and for those in the public that are looking in that don't know that activity goes on, it certainly does. Again, it starts sort of this time of the year. We don't want to be removing any trees in the summer with all the folks here unless it's an absolutely necessary. That's it. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. So moving on in reports, do we have land care?
no report.
Okay. And members at large, I guess, Ed, do you have?
What I'll report on is the treasure tree program.
Okay.
Message here, Mike. Oh, sorry. Treasure tree program, I'm scheduled along with some people I mentioned to meet with the. Oh, okay. So October the 3rd, which is, I believe, a Tuesday at 10 a.m., I'm going to meet representatives of the Swananoa Valley Tree Board in the parking lot, Monterey parking lot, and we're going to walk along Assembly Drive, and they're going to have representatives there. And I'm going to mention this to maintenance as well. They can spare somebody for an hour to walk Montreat Road, and they're going to identify trees that they believe would qualify for the treasure tree program. And then I'll bring that list back here and let you guys know what, we should have that for the October meeting for sure, what the process is to get these trees nominated and this, what the actual, and then the program will get going in Montreat, and we're part of their map, which I think I handed out at the last meeting. In addition to just being a good reference and bringing people to the area, just have a good walk, it's also a fundraiser for them. It can be one for us at some point down the road for the tree board. People come from all area and they take the map and they walk and they get a narrative about the trees, the history. If anybody had a chance to take a look at the tree over here at North Fork, that tree's 180 years old, 150 years old. And I'm sure we have some of those in this area. So it's an exciting program, and it actually will bring us more into the overall Swananoa Valley Tree Program, which is very large and very successful. So that's
Okay.
my report.
Arrington, you had said that you were interested in the treasure tree as well. Have you?
I'm working with Ed, and he has given our report. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm working with Ed, and he has given our report. Thank you.
So, you have any reports you would like? It's not required, it's just, everybody should have a chance to say their piece.
I'm waiting for Barry to get the printout of the map that we got, Greenland and town and
Yeah, could you bring your mic around? Yeah.
the map of the Greenland and the town property and the map of everything on a bigger plat to make it easier to map things out. And then me and Mason, started going out and taking a look at better trees that need to be really taken care of, or maybe eventually down the road that needs to be addressed, but sooner or later, me and Mason will be out in different areas checking it out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to encourage board members to find the areas that you're really interested in, that you get some enjoyment out of working with as well as doing it. There are some things that we just have to do that are not necessarily all that fun, but I've been making the assumption that since you do a lot out in the community with your work, that it's a kind of a natural to connect with the public works and looking at the trees and stuff. Is that kind of what you have in mind as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me back to something I saw just recently. I saw a mention of, and this may be a public works thing as well, the need for a computer-based master tree map or program, I guess, to keep track of trees. Can somebody enlighten us about where that idea stands? I mean, I'm wondering
Well,
if
it's just, Brad, I can report on that. It's an idea that's just originated from Tyler and my conference, Barry and Daniel. What we have are, and everybody can, I mean, no need to print and pass it out, but if you'll go to the tree management guide, you'll see that there's extensive materials on the two inventories that have been done. And part of those, the consulting firms with each of those inventories listed all of the trees, and you can see the various charts. But they've, in addition to location, they've identified their condition as to good, fair, poor, dead. And at this point, for the most part, not every, but just about all the trees that were identified in poor in the first two inventories are now dead. I mean, that's so, in any event, what we talked about at the meeting and what I brought up in the memo is that it would be, based on talking with Barry and Daniel, it would be a very good idea to take, if we could take these charts that our former consultants obviously have on some sort of computer and get them on a computer base that we control and therefore can enter when we've removed this tree, that tree, the other tree, as well as when we conduct future inventories, enter those trees on an inventory. It would be helpful. It's not absolutely necessary. They can live without it, but if all we're talking about is a fairly inexpensive computer program and getting some help from the consultants in the past of getting that data from them computer-wise, that it's something we ought to look at. But it's not been put on a budget yet or anything like that. It's just an idea that we discussed in our meeting last month or earlier this month. Maybe it was the end of August.
So my thought is that at some point it would make sense for the board to express to the Board of Commissioners, that that's a good idea, that we would support it.
Yeah.
We do that. Maybe it's a little premature for that at the.
Well, we probably need to, I think, investigate it and see what it would take, because we need to give the town a dollar number. Here's what it'll cost to do it. But it's something we want to definitely look at.
Pretty much any database program can be tweaked to serve that purpose. But if there's anything that's specific to tree management, that could be a plus. So
Yeah.
I guess we're at the stage where we want to be researching that.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, we could do an Excel program and set it up, but the trick would be, can we get it from these existing, we don't want to, it would be very laborious to try to put all of the first two surveys. If we can just import that data from the consultants, that would be very helpful.
And any decent program should be able to do that if we give it the right parameters.
Yeah.
So let's look into it. Okay. So moving down, I just put a lot of things under old business. Montreat future update, I put. At that point, I was not sure where exactly the status of Montreat Futures, because somehow although I was at the meeting, I missed the moment in which it was adopted. So the Montreat Futures master plan is there. It's available online in the town website. And I think it'd be good for each of us to be familiarizing ourselves with it. There are a couple of things that are specific to tree board. One of them is one that has always been part of the town, the committee's activities, which is maintaining the invasive species list and the recommended trees list, those kind of plant lists. And it's just saying we should continue doing that. I think, does it say on a 5-year basis? Is that what I recall?
I don't have the plan in front of me. I can.
So I'm just making a note to myself. So I'll be doing my own investigation into what we need to be doing on that. Certainly, the various lists is something we do. The other thing that we're going to need to pay attention to is this coordinating role that the new plan, it says the tree board will have, and the work with MRA and the college and I don't know, other entities, the conservation group, to have some sort of board that meets on at least a periodic basis to talk about the things we have in common, because we're responsible for the public trees on town property, but that's only a small portion of the trees that are here in the whole valley, and some coordination with other groups that have other trees and more trees, I think, is a thing that needs to be done. And it's kind of a big task, but on the other hand, I think it's an important one. So again, I keep calling on you, Mason. Do you know, because when I asked about it before, there really wasn't yet any specifics about what our role might be. I mean, what we were expected to do there. Has that conversation progressed any? Or?
No, the plan was just adopted, and the plan does identify items that are in 1 year, short-term time frame, and I'm assuming that the staff will be looking at those short-term, now that the plan's been adopted, looking at the items that are identified for short-term work, and they'll start on those. Again, I don't recall whether, I think some of our things were on that short-term time frame, as I recall. And so I expect that we can be looking at that as the year progresses.
Yeah. I've been assuming that the coordinating role with the other entities would be one that we should get it started on relatively soon. The doing of the lists and things can happen at a little bit more leisurely pace, I think. Okay, so tree management guide. I had hoped to have copies of tree management guide for you, and I got so balled up in trying to work with this Tree City that I neglected to do that. The tree management guide is on the website. You can go there and find it, and I think we should be making ourselves familiar with it. And then we also need to be preparing ourselves to do some work on writing the tree planting plan. By the way, just serendipity, a pretty good friend of mine here in Black Mountain used to do tree board and tree management guide for Charlotte. And I'm gonna tap on his knowledge and interest to help us maybe find some examples of tree management guides or planting plans. I've already told you about Tree City application. I'm working on it. Still looking for people who would be interested in working with me on that. It's been, as I said, it's been frustrating trying to get started because there are some problems with their new website. So. Chestnut Foundation. A reminder that the Chestnut Chat is a pretty much monthly thing that the Chestnut Foundation does as a online an online program, and you can go back for many months and find stuff on it that's very interesting about chestnuts. And in your idle moments, I would encourage you to take a look at that, because there's a lot to be learned. This last month, the Chestnut Chat had to do again with at a level of detail that I had not seen before, the complexities of what's involved in trying to bring the chestnut back into the world. There's some tremendous progress that has been made, and yet there's a lot of work that needs to be done. None of us are going to see the day when most of the trees are in the valley are chestnuts. That's not going to happen in our lifetimes. But I think we're getting to a point where it does make some sense for there to be some focused effort on the more local level on what the community can do in support of bringing chestnut back. Some towns have orchards of chestnuts, and they will be converting those orchards to the truly resistant strains of American chestnut. So my question that I put down there was, how can we plan an event that we can to screen the Chestnut Foundation documentary that's out there, and they're trying to encourage communities to do screenings. When a tree screening is done, we could have people come out from Asheville to talk in addition to watching the movie. And I think it's a thing to do. So I'm asking y'all if you have any ideas now or in the future.
Well, I think you have such interest in it. I think that's something that you should plan and bring it to us, and we'll take it from there.
I do have an interest in it, but I don't want to be singled out as having an interest in it, that it's something that we as a tree board need to be paying attention to. And I keep bringing it up because there hasn't been much response to it. But yeah, I could, you know, I'm not very well versed in how to, you know, obtain a room that's sufficient for projecting something. We could do it here, but during a daytime thing wouldn't work too well because of the sunlight situation.
Well, I
So,
think my experience has been plan it, and people will find it, and those who come will come, and those who don't.
Yeah.
That's not the best way.
Tree inventory. Mason and Tyler provided a report about tree inventory. What do you all need to say about it?
Well, I'll report, Tyler and I met with Barry and Daniel, and as everybody knows, and if you don't know, we've had 2 exhaustive tree inventories done pre-COVID. They're listed in the tree management guide on the website. You can see the maps, the photographs, where they are, all the listing. A very, you know, it was done with, you know, grant money and very sophisticated stuff. Essentially the first inventory was from the gate to Lake Susan, along in the green space along Montreat, or rather Assembly Drive. And then the second phase was from Lake Susan up to the Graybeard trailhead along Graybeard Road. Essentially all the trees, almost all of the trees in the phase 1 inventory have been removed that were listed initially as poor or dead. There are a few that, again, the staff is continuing to find are dying that are being identified, but most of those trees have been removed. There have also been a number of trees removed in the inventory 2 zone. Barry has got money in the budget this year to complete the removal of all the trees in zone 2, and is working with Kyle Patton of Patton Tree Service to do that. And Kyle worked with Barry and Daniel on occasionally when they need just extra help, or they've got a very dangerous situation, or they need equipment, or frankly, Kyle can get up there and hang from trees on ropes that they'd rather not do and don't have that experience doing. And so he's, you know, again, the staff can and does do everything they can safely do. Tree removal is one of the most dangerous occupations you can find, if not the most dangerous. And it is, you got to be very, very careful. And so they use Kyle frequently. So the bottom line is, the tree removal resulting from the first two inventories will be completed by the end of this year. There are additional zones Barry has identified, and going back to what I said earlier, there's other tree removal going on, just not within these two zones. There are 6 additional zones that Barry has identified, 4 of which, and again, I listed them in my memo for assessment. One is the town center area. The second is Alabama Terrace, North Carolina Terrace, Tennessee Road area, and you can read those. I don't need to go through them, but understand this, there are 3 levels of assessment. You know, unless we find some money to pay for a very sophisticated assessment like we did with the first 2 inventories, the practical way to go about it, and the one that staff can do, and you know, maybe with some training, some residents can help, or part-time help they get can help. But is basically a level 1 assessment, which is essentially a visual walk-by, drive-by assessment that's focusing on high extreme risk trees. And these are trees that are dead, or where you're seeing, if they're not dead, and Barry and I looked at one today, it's a tree that's really, really leaning. And whether it may be alive or not today, it's not going to be alive or not fall at some point. Gravity will just do that. And in other trees, you can see they're alive today, but there's a notch, and you can see that notch is sort of cracked, and it won't be long before that tree dies. So the first is basically a public risk level 1 assessment. Get the trees that really need to be removed from a public safety standpoint. And so level 2 assessment is a little bit more intense, and then there's a level 3 as well. Again, it'll depend on the resources the town has, but I think we need to let our staff this year complete the removal of the first 2 inventories we did, and then maybe as we get towards the end of the year, plan 1 or 2, at least 1 inventory a year for, say, the next 4 years of these other 4 areas. Again, noting that we can't do everything in a day, and the staff has got a lot to do, and tree removal is an important part of what they do, but there's a limited amount of time, and there are limited amounts of times of the year in which they can do this work. For example, probably the town center area is the #1 area to go through and make sure all our public safety trees are taken care of. But that's also the area it's absolutely hardest to deal with the trees, because even in the slow times of the year, unless the colleges, if you take nobody in the conference room using the conference center and nobody at the college, that's not very many weeks of the year that nobody's in that town center area. So again, there's sometimes limited opportunities to deal safely with an inherently unsafe condition, because nobody survives a tree falling on them of any size. So so that's it, I think. I think our recommendation is that we, again, not worry about any additional tree inventories this year, but let them finish up removal this year, and begin working on additional tree inventories beginning next year. Again, we can maybe look for some funding sources between this year and the end of the year. If we can find additional funding sources for more than 1 inventory, great. But if we've got to end up doing it ourselves, we start out with a level 1 inventory. Todd, is there anything I need to add to that? Barry, Daniel, you got anything to add? You covered it well. Okay.
Mason, I have a question. The trees that are hanging over power lines, do staff remove those, or do Duke Power remove those?
Well,
Who's in charge of that?
well, Barry, I'll let you answer it. Barry's involved, and he tries to get Duke to do it, but they sometimes don't. So let you explain, Barry. You're the expert.
We do not have anybody on staff that is trained to work close to the utility lines, we can get within 10 feet. Usually when you've got stuff hanging over the power lines, it's usually Duke Energy that'll be taking care of that, and they will not mess with it unless it is laying on the line usually. I've got a couple of trees that are huge trees, and if they fall, they will take out quite a bit of utility, but they will not come in and cut. What I've been told is they are a power company, they're not a tree removal business. So,
Well, it sounds like then nobody's in charge.
well, they've got, utility, the maintenance crews that'll come through, the Splenda, and they'll come through once every couple of years, and they'll do the right-of-way clearing for them, and then that's about it. They've got some poles that I have to meet with Duke Energy here in the next couple of weeks. They're gonna do a little bit of line clearance around them poles, and they'll set the poles, and that'll be about it. They'll go about probably 10 foot from each pole and trim and set it, and that's what they'll do.
The conundrum that the tree board needs to recognize is that when Duke isn't going to remove them, Barry and Daniel can't remove those trees if those that are close to the power lines. They're not qualified to do it. So we've got to go outside to do it. And there's one tree that Barry was telling me about this morning. He had a quote to remove the tree that's, menacing some major power lines, and it's $5,000, which I'm sure isn't in our budget. So
That part of that money right there, and I've got to get other quotes for it, but that would come out of part of our funding that we would pay help or have to do on our tree inventory stuff, so.
Okay, then who can jack up Duke Power to come and get these jobs done? Town council? Mason?
I don't know.
have you ever tried to jack up Duke Power, Eric?
Well, I don't know, but it was worth a try.
They jack back.
Yeah, it's
Just a thought.
Those folks,
It's changed over the years. I have seen it change to where used to you could pick a phone up, call, and they were willing to help. They were willing to come out. They were proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's they maintain the distance that they need to maintain, and that's it. They're in the business to provide you power and to make that money. Every one of us gets it every month. So
when the tree falls and the power goes out, then they'll come fix it after the fact.
yes, that's what I've run into.
Yeah.
And that's the way the business has changed.
Well, when was the last time that, I guess, council approached Duke and said, look, we need some help here?
You kind of got to be
Or did
careful
you?
with that.
Huh?
You kind of have to be careful with that, because when they do send crews in, they do work with us and they don't clear cut.
Okay.
So we went from that extreme of clear cutting at one point in time, years ago, to the point of just minimal trimming to get by. So you kind of got to be careful with that also.
Okay.
I'll talk with Barry further about, chatting with Duke to see if we can get more cooperation, but I've tried to work with Duke Power, not on tree cutting, but some other things, and not found them extremely cooperative. And I don't mean that negatively, they're very business oriented, and if this is the rule, that's where they go. They don't.
Okay, so I'm ugly. So if the tree comes down and the line comes down and people don't have power, then how does Duke Power get paid for people not having electricity because they should have taken the tree down in the first place?
Well, they'll send the truck out here and they'll clean that tree up, but they
Yeah.
just didn't have to pay to cut it down. And then they put the wires back up.
But where does that money come from for doing that, Mason?
Well,
Your power
Barrington, it
bills.
comes, whether they cut the tree down and remove it that way, or they cut the tree down, put the line, I don't think the cost is that much difference for them, frankly,
No, they just leave it on the side of the road and then the town would have to take care of it. They just get it to where the line goes up and then they leave.
Here's a prime example. Tree Mason was talking about. Quote I got, it's right up to the power lines. The quote I got was $6,000 for that removal. Say Duke Energy wants to pay that $6,000 versus putting up a pole and a line, paying guys 6 hours. That's not going to cost you $6,000 to do that. So it's cheaper for them to replace a pole and
Yeah,
have a guy to put a line up than actually come out and remove the tree.
right.
That's where they're looking at their money savings on.
I see.
And that's really for our benefit, that's not a good way, but for them on the business side of it, that's how they're making the money that you were talking about.
I think what you're saying
see,
is the
thank you.
town's responsible for maintenance up to the point it causes damage. And it's strictly how homeowners insurance works. You could have leak in your ceiling, but they're not going to pay for the fix of
Yeah,
the
I'm
ceiling
hoping to end it up.
until the water comes down through your ceiling. You're responsible for the maintenance, and that's it. And up to that point, you're on your own.
So our time is getting on here. They're good questions. One question that is out there and has been for a while is, where do we get our funding to work with tree inventory? Because the tree inventory is what's behind this. Our finding out what trees are a danger to people, first of all, and power as a secondary concern. And moving that whole process along. I sometime soon, I will talk to Andy Plininger about where things stand, because it's through the state forestry that it's my understanding that funding has come in the past. And I'll try to update myself on what is possible. We were kind of in a conundrum that we had done inventory, but we hadn't finished with the process of removing trees, and so the funding was kind of frozen there. But I'll find out where it's gonna, where we're at with it. So invasive species, just a reminder that we're going to need to work on the invasive species list, and that's trees, but it's also ivies, the things that, damage trees, and we need to be thinking about that. And then following up on that, what could be done in terms of abatement of invasive species. The final thing is on the list here is treasured trees. Do we have more to say about that, or?
Just October 3rd, we will be meeting with representatives of the Swananoa Valley Tree Board who will walk the Montreat Road with us, with me, with other representatives.
Okay.
I mean, that's happening, and I mean, they're going to find trees that they're going to nominate. There's no question about it, and then we'll decide what we want to do with that information. But we are going to become part of it. No charge.
So would that be open to tree board members to walk along?
100%. I'll let you know when I get the
Okay,
confirmation.
yeah,
Right now,
please
it's
do.
October 3rd, 10 a.m. in this parking lot, but I'll
Okay.
send you a reminder, 100%.
Right, great.
About 2 hours.
That sounds good. So are there any other items that people need to address?
I have something that came to my attention. It's good. I see the hours late, so we can put that on the agenda for next month. It has to do with the opening of right-of-ways that have tree canopies in this town. The opening of right-of-ways. Yeah. People have wanted to open right-of-ways that are town's responsibilities. They need the permission from the town. They have existing tree canopies. And as a tree board, if I read the Montreat plan, forest management and responsibility is part of our responsibilities. And we need to be aware of whatever right-of-ways are being asked to be opened that have existing tree canopies, that this board should have some type of a knowledge of or position on.
Do we,
And
as
there
a
are
tree,
some pending ones from what I understand right now. And we talked about this at our last meeting, that we were going to be made aware of any zoning requests where trees were involved, or opening of right-of-ways where trees were involved. It's late in the meeting, and we can wait till next month, but it's,
the question in my mind there is, how much input do we want to have into that? Because it's normally done with planning and zoning and
well, I think there's a part of that for everybody. There's trees involved, and if it involves trees on public lands in Montreat, we should have an input on it.
okay. So
Not a final decision, but an input.
yeah. So Okay, I'll look into what we can, how we can get clear, because we're not always consulted when that sort of thing comes up, but I think we should be.
I think we should be.
Yeah, okay,
It's part of the Monterey plan that was just passed.
okay. All right, so it's 10:30.
Yeah, we can wait. We'll put it on the
Mason's-
agenda for next month.
Mason's got to go, Arrington had to go, so I would say barring objection, we're done.
Okay, adjourned.
And you,
Yeah, that's great.
all right,
We're good.
if there's anything hanging for anybody, let me know, we'll work it in. Thank you, Barry, thank you, Daniel.